So let's call it like it is. Homeowners insurance is rather boring. I mean, who wants to learn about these things? Have you ever tried to understand a policy, a homeowner's policy? It can be very confusing. And so in this video, what we want to do is debunk the top 5 myths that we have about homeowners insurance in the state of Florida. Now, my name is Brad Dohak. I'm with Gulf Point Properties. I've been selling real estate here for 19 years in the state of Florida. And prior to that, many people don't realize this, I actually had a short stint in my life where I sold property and casualty insurance. And it was miserable. I hated it. It was terrible. I didn't do it for very long. But that was when Allstate canceled every homeowner's policy in the state of Florida, and it just was not a very pleasant experience. But over that time, I got to understand a lot about the industry, a lot about the different types of policies, and what you as a homeowner really need at the end of the day. So let's jump right into it. One common misconception is that if your home floods, it's automatically included in your homeowner's policy. That is not the case. Flood is completely separate from a homeowner's policy, and flood is defined as rising water. So therefore, if there is ever rising water and you do not have flood coverage, that is something that you will not be covered for. Now, here in the state of Florida, people think that everybody requires flood insurance. That is not the case. Even if you do have a mortgage, not every home is in a designated special flood zone that would require flood coverage. Does that mean that you should not have flood insurance? Not necessarily. It just means that it's significantly cheaper. So in the off-course event that there is some kind of a flooding event, you would have coverage for a much, much cheaper premium, call it $400 or $500 per year versus potentially thousands of dollars per year as you get closer to the coast and as you get into higher risk flood areas. This brings us to our myth number 2, which is homeowners insurance is legally required in the state of Florida. You would be amazed at how many people think that that is the case, and that is absolutely not the case. It is a risk aversion at the end of the day. And so if you're getting a mortgage, it is required, not legally required. It's just in order for the bank to give you the money, they want to make sure that that asset is insured, which is very understandable. Now, on the other side of that, if you purchase a property cash, there is no requirement at closing that you have to have insurance. That is completely up to you because you want to protect your asset or you don't want to. And I've seen a lot of people, especially on the coast, who decide not to do that because they have higher premiums. Now, that being said, one thing that I have seen people who own properties outright, pay in cash, or they either paid off their mortgage, a lot of people are deciding that they're going to give up the wind coverage portion of their policy. So therefore, if a hurricane comes through and let's say a tree falls down on the house, there would be no coverage for that. And so it's just one of those things where the deductible is usually 2% of the coverage amount. So if you have a $1 million home, that would be $20,000 of a deductible. And a lot of people are saying, what are the chances that my home that's made of concrete block with hurricane straps on the roof, with built to the latest codes and standards, is going to have over $20,000 worth of wind damage? I'm just going to give up that wind coverage because it tends to be the largest portion of that premium is for the wind. Myth number 3. All of my personal belongings, my personal property, are covered in my home under my homeowner's insurance policy. That's a risky one, right? So there are certain personal property coverages that are included with every homeowner's insurance policy in the state of Florida. That being said, there are also limits. So if you have expensive jewelry, collectibles, etc., there are usually limits and a cap as far as what could be covered in the home. So a lot of homeowners companies offer additional riders, additional coverages for expensive jewelry, for other personal property items that are of value in your home, so that if it's above the limits of the policy, that you will still be covered. Now, the other interesting component about personal property in your home is that there are 2 types of coverage. You can either have replacement costs or actual cash value of the personal property. Replacement cost means that if you have a sofa that's damaged, and let's say that there was a fire, and the insurance company is going to give you the money as if that was brand new so that you can go buy a brand new sofa. If you get an actual cash value policy, that means that they're going to take the cost of that sofa new, reduce the depreciation, etc. off that, and you might get pennies on the dollar for your used furniture, and so that'll make it more difficult to go buy a new sofa. So these are some of the considerations that you need to take into account, because obviously if you go with the actual cash value portion of the plan, that would be much less money than it would to get replacement costs, and I've seen usually that's an additional $500 to $800 per year, depending on how much personal property coverage is in that policy. Myth number 4 is that the home insurance policies, the premiums, are equal across the board. That is not true. And what a lot of the national media wants you to believe is that the homeowners insurance in Florida is completely outrageous and nobody can afford it. And in some areas, well, that's kind of true, actually. If you get into an older home that's close to the beach that has expensive flood insurance, and say it's a wood frame structure and it's not up to the latest hurricane codes, then that might absolutely be the case. But people are very surprised when we look at new construction that's a few miles east of the Gulf or away from the ocean. The premiums are not very bad. You might be looking at a $2,000 per year, $3,000 per year on a $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 home, which in the scheme of things is not very expensive. Now, obviously, that's going to be more than what a lot of people are used to if they're up in, say, the Midwest, something like that. But for having wind coverage and for the storms that we deal with, that's actually a very great premium. Now, on to myth number 5, that an insurance company can cancel your policy as soon as you make one claim. There's a lot of question about this because people are always afraid to make a claim on their homeowner's insurance policy. And sure, if you've made claims in the past, that can affect other insurance companies being willing to cover you. However, they won't just cancel your policy for having one particular claim. Things happen. That is the point. They can't legally cancel your policy for one claim that you had. Where problems arise is if you've had multiple claims in a short period of time, they may consider that to be a big problem. There's also a difference in the type of claims. If the claim is from a wind claim because there was a giant hurricane that came through the area, that would be a lot different than somebody left the bathtub running and that flooded the entire property. That was the responsibility of one of the occupants, and obviously they're not taking good care of their property if they're willing, if they're doing that type of activity, and so that would negatively affect you more than some kind of a wind coverage, or if there's some kind of a fire or any other theft, loss, those types of things. And so there's a lot of it depends when it comes into that answer, but the insurance companies are just not going to cancel you with one claim. Now here's the good news. Insurance has become a lot better in the state of Florida. We have seen a stabilizing of the insurance market. We're not seeing nearly as many increases. We're seeing additional companies come into the state of Florida, and I shopped my insurance for the first time in a while, and it actually was able to reduce it quite significantly by over a couple $1,000s per year compared to what I was paying last year. And it's been a long time since we've been able to say my insurance has gone down, which I can officially do that, and that feels really good. So homeowners insurance is obviously a big component in the real estate picture, and so that's what me and my team specialize in, is real estate here, especially in Southwest Florida, but all throughout the state of Florida, we've got a great network and connections. So if you're looking to buy and or sell in the state of Florida, we'd be honored to help you. All of our contact information is in the description below, and as always, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would mean the world to us. Have a blessed day.